Yo, no maniacs, what's going on? Thank you for being here for our pregame. Hey, listen, guys, this is one of the shows that you think you know what you're gonna be doing, and then next thing you know, blood missile lands on you, on your whole franchise, man. And that's what happened today, right before the show, man. We got the late, in case you guys haven't heard, late breaking news. Lost one of the best to ever do it, one of the best to ever lace them up for the Bears, man. As Chris would say it, a Mount Rushmore of Bears football and NFL football, in my opinion, all together. Dick Buckus passed away not long ago. I think we're just getting word of it. How long ago it was, I have no clue. But we come at this with a heavy heart, man. And man, I never got a chance to lay eyes on the guy myself, but everything I saw on tape is just, and you guys will get to see a quick little montage Chris put together for us, and to honor him, man. But before we get all the way into the show, guys, do me a favor. In the honor of number 51, we're going to do 51 seconds of silence, and then we're going to get into the video montage. So I would just ask you guys in the chat and everybody on the panel today, starting right after my sound of my voice, give it 51 seconds of silence. No chat, just silence, man. In honor of number 51.
Hey Siri, open up.
Okay, guys, thank you. Thank you so much for that. That was respectful. Glad you guys stopped chatting for a minute. Thank you guys on the panel, man. But hey, if you guys got any idea, and if you haven't spent time to check out and see what kind of football player this guy was, this quick little montage that Chris pulled up for us, man, you're gonna get a feeling of what these players during his era felt when they saw number 51. Go ahead and hit it, Chris.
You play the Bears, and I've heard it myself from different people, that they better get ready.
From his personality to the impact of his tackles, everything Dick Butkus did was memorable. Although he played on only 2 winning teams, he did not lower his standards to fit the company. He was Moby Dick in a goldfish bowl. His 9-year career stands apart as the single most sustained work of devastation ever committed on a football field by anyone, anywhere, anytime. To talk about him is to drain the vocabulary of superlatives.
For all the people we were fortunate enough to have Brian Hendren with us, man, and Chris, our producer, man, with us, that was fortunate enough to have laid eyes on him live and in living color in his pads. And I see a few people, James Ford, that I noticed, also Junior, Armando Lara Jr., I noticed are people that actually saw that guy play and have a real serious sense of how aggressive that guy was, how much of a monster he actually was, and what we actually lost today. So without me talking too much and without further ado, Let Chris and Brian tell you what they think of it.
Well, Nomad, he kind of epitomized the term monster of the Midway. When I started to watch the Bears as a kid, uh, they weren't a very good team. Like I said, the first complete year that I watched them, I know they went 1-13, and Gale Sayers and Dick Butkus provided me with the positive input on those teams that otherwise were not very good. And those two were the ones that made me love the Chicago Bears. I mean, actually seeing this guy come off the field and seeing blood on his jersey, um, as an 8 or 9 year old kid, I mean that it gave me an idea of how intense NFL football was. I'd never seen that before, and Dick Butkus, he just epitomizes what the NFL was and is, and what the Chicago Bears are, the monsters of the Midway.
When I was a kid growing up in Indiana, that was long before the Colts was here. And in my family, I was the only one that liked sports. So I'd be over at a neighbor kid's house or whatever, and their dad'd be watching the game. When you would watch him play, he stood out. What you just played, that clip, that is not a cherry picking. That's it. Just
Every
about
game.
any game Butkus was in, that's how he played. When I think of Dick Butkus, he is the embodiment of monsters of the Midway. You're going to earn every blade of grass you get, for the offense on the other team. Intimidating. And like I said, he was my childhood hero. He is the reason why I chose the Bears to be my team to follow. And 53 years later, I'm still following him. The man just had an impact. And anybody that's ever watched the first Rocky movie, that was the name of Rocky's dog, Butkus. That's how much of an impact that guy had.
I remember that. You know what, guys? We're going to get to some of the pregame stuff, but I think it's only right to show this man some honor, man, and some respect. One thing I will say, number one, two things about Dick Butkus. Number one, whenever I go watch Dick Butkus highlights, man, I'm always astounded by the sound. And that particular video montage that Chris got for us, man, that's real. That is real, man. That's what it sounds like when you're a monster and you out there thumping and making he hit you with every ounce of everything he had in him, man. And that's what comes away from me whenever I watch his clips, man. He's one of the, you can go and look at a whole bunch. I got a lot of favorite guys. I like to watch those old clips like that. He's up in my top 5, man. I just love watching his clips, man. He was an animal out there, man, and he's the embodiment of what we think of what Chicago football is, man. Chicago football has a style to it, and he's the embodiment of it. When you start talking about it, you got to start with him. What kind of football does Chicago play? And number 51 better jump out in your head. Number one. Number two is, and I'm not blowing smoke right here when I say this, because normally, when a player passes away, you have everybody's gonna go out and give flowers, like that's automatic. But some guys, you find out things about people after they're done playing. Former teammates tell us about what kind of person they are, what kind of person they wasn't. But I've never in my life heard one person, and this is just me, not one person in my life have I ever heard say one bad thing about Walter Payton, not one bad thing about Dick Butkus. In all my days, I've never heard it. Is it? Could they have been somebody that I think I don't know. But I can just say that as a man, I think when you're done playing a game like this, I think what precedes you will be the way you played the game and what kind of man you are. And from all accounts, man, I think this was a hell of a man we just lost today, outside of a great football player. But hey, that's just how I feel about it. I'm honored to have a platform. We're honored to have a platform to be able to give him the gratitude that he deserves, man. I think that's just how I feel about the whole thing.
Well, great to be back, y'all. First thing to say. Second thing to say is it's really terrible to hear about this coming in the door. One guy who had something negative to say about Mr. Butkus was Deacon Jones. And basically he said that every time he tried to hit you, he was trying to put you in the cemetery. So I'm not sure how to take that one. I think it's really much more of a positive thing. But I'm going to give the No Maniacs and the Bears fans out there a little understanding as to like what kind of a player we're talking about here. So 2-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year, 5-time first team All-Pro, 3-time second team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, George Halas Award, all-decade team in the 60s, all-decade team in the 70s, NFL 100th anniversary all-time team. Like, this guy is the guy. If you don't know, feel free to watch some clips. You know, we gave you a short stack today. But, you know, like more stats, interceptions, 22, interception yards, 166, 11 sacks in his career for a linebacker, safeties, 1, fumble recoveries, 27. They consider this guy at his size, strength, and speed a ball hawk. What a monster human being. And, you know, the one more thing for me to say, growing up in the 80s, I didn't really have the chance to watch Dick Butkus. I'm only watching clips on the NFL replay and things to that effect. But I was able to catch him in a bunch of TV in the 80s. And this is the type of influence the Chicago Bears had, not just within the football world, but outside of the football world during the 80s. This guy was in an awesome show called Blue Thunder. I don't know if any of you guys remember it. It was this helicopter show. Like back in the 80s, there were shows like dedicated to vehicles. There was like a motorcycle show. There was a helicopter show. There's a couple of them, but they were him and Bubba Smith were on a helicopter show back in the day, and it was pretty cool to see again one of your football heroes out there on primetime TV doing it. And that's just TV. He's got a bunch of movies. Dick Butkus is a G on many levels, guys. And, Bears fans, give it up. Mad love to 51.
And you mentioned, kids, 8-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
He only played 9 years.
Wow.
And part of the last year he was injured because he only played 9 games. That's basically the knees is what ended his career. But, I mean,
and you play like that, 9 years is a lot.
Well, you're right. You're absolutely right, man. And one overlooked aspect of Butkus's game, you always see the hard tackles, and I mean just the monstrous defensive hits he put on people. Dick Butkus was one of the greatest covering linebackers. Listen to this. Every year of his career, all 9 seasons, he had at least 1 interception. In his rookie season, he had 5. Another season, he had 4. He had 3 twice. I mean, this guy could cover. He could cover. He wasn't just a devastating hitter, a punishing hitter. He could cover the pass too. So I think that's often overlooked rather as a part of his game. But definitely, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, middle linebacker to ever play.
I'll throw something else in too. Excuse me, Nomad. In Butkus' whole career, it was a 14-game
That's right.
schedule.
It was only 14 games. That's correct.
Before you go, Samo, that just so everybody knows, that's a Chicago kid. That was a Chicago boy, groomed and raised. So go ahead, Samo.
Yeah, man, that's what I was gonna get to, man. He's the heart and soul of Chicago, man. That's the guy that set the standard for what it means to play defense in Chicago and set the standard for the monsters of the Midway. Like Chris said, man, that's everything I know from what I've learned about him, man. The man is mean and tough as nails is what my coach used to say. I remember first seeing him on video and being like, oh, man, because my introduction to football was a little late in my life, and I think that was one of the first videos I saw of just a cut up of a guy just going crazy, and I'm like, well, I know what position I want to play. And I didn't want to play offense because I knew I didn't want to get hit like that. But I wanted to play defense because I knew I wanted to hit somebody like that. So, so it's like, yeah, he molded me a little bit in that manner. And, I wanted to be as mean and as tough as he was on the field, man. And, it's a sad day in Chicago to lose one of the greats, man, but we're going to celebrate his life, man, and his legacy. I hope that this team today honors that legacy. He was not only a great football player, but from every account, I heard that he was a great man as well. And every time I've seen him, like, he always, spoke highly of the Bears, and, he still honors this tradition of the Chicago Bears, man. And, like I said, he's everything we want this team to be moving forward, man. Not just setting the tone for the defense, but for the entire team, man, and for the entire NFL for that sake, man. I think like he set the tone in the NFL in his era for sure. And I think right now there were a lot of players to follow. And right now, man, I want us to get back to that, man. I hope that strikes a nerves in this defense today. And, rest in peace to him, and my condolences to his family and friends, and we're gonna honor his legacy.
I just want to tell a quick story because one of my I can't remember exactly what school he played up. I want to say I think he played. I can't remember what school, but anyway, man, he's one of my uncles on my dad's side, man. And whenever I go over his house, man, he pulls out all his old gear, and he's got all these pictures, man. And he won number 51 in high school, man. And up in that area, man, he's renowned he was like a terrorist out there, man. And he looked like he was, man. He wore number 51, and he still got these arm pads, right? Like these real like heavy looking arm pads, and he pulled them out one day, and they had bike on them. It was a I guess helmets and the pads said bike on it. And so he was showing me. I was like, what you got this for if you playing linebacker? He said, man, back in the day, man, you can use your arms to hurt people, man. You can take people out with your arms. And so I started noticing when I was watching Dick Butkus and cats like Deacon Jones, and how they would have their hands and arms all taped up heavily. Like, you can use those as a weapon back in those days, man. So I just tell you what, I would not wanted to play in his era with the kind of rules and the kind of people they had roaming around out there. Like that dude was a straight up menace to society of a football field. I just wouldn't have wanted no parts of that running a slant across the middle. I know we need to get to, we'll take one more quick lap around the track if anybody else has anything to add. But man,
well, I was going to say the two of the weapons that they used. One was the forearm shiver, where they just come up and just hit you all up under the throat. Butkus would do that quite often. Deacon Jones was famous for the head slap. I mean, he'd slap the taste out your mouth upside your head, and they've since outlawed both of those maneuvers. But Deacon Jones, he basically give you a concussion and then go kill your quarterback. So a lot of that stuff, along with the stick 'em, no longer allowed. So
hey guys, man, look, we could probably do a whole entire 2 shows, 3 shows, and maybe it's in order at some point. But man, what a legend, man! And he's gonna get flowers everywhere on every podcast, and he's gonna damn deserve it, man. What a legend! And so let's just move on to the next subject, man. I'm sure we'll bring this up. You know what I'll be interested to see is how much it inspires our middle linebacker right now, because he came in the building. He came in the building talking about how much what they put down, the legends that played the position here in Chicago, what they put down, and the shoes that he has to fill. And you got a lot of people out there who feel like, did we get our money's worth in this guy? You got to feel like this guy's gonna come into this game with his hair on fire, playing like I just can't wait to see how he's feeling about this game, man, and losing Dick Buckets just to see what kind of energy he comes out here with.
For sure, for sure. I think
Hopefully
Deion
they'll
Buford
unleash
said
him.
it best in there, man. He said that, Buckets was the one that started that tradition at the middle linebacker position for the Chicago Bears. And
Actually, Bill George before
Yeah.
him started it.
Really? Oh, see,
Bill
you
George
guys
was
fooling us.
he was the first great Bears linebacker. He wasn't on Butkus' standard. I mean, he was the first, and probably I would probably rank him fourth now under Urlacher, third Singletary, and then Butkus.
We've been
Let's
rolling ever
argue,
since,
Nomad.
though, man. We've been rolling ever since, man. Edmonds it's time to step it up. I hope it inspires him today too, Nomad. I'm with you. He's overdue.
Let's get to the inactives, man. So far, the inactives are Eddie Jackson, Deron Harmon, who I'm pretty sure they probably couldn't get up to speed for the game yet. Of course, Chase Claypool will have something to say about that subject. Jalen Johnson and Aviante Collins. And what I'm most pissed off about, and I'm pretty certain at this point, there's something else to Deontay Foreman. Maybe they promised him they move on from him if they wasn't going to give him the right amount of snaps. But he is not playing again, and I'm highly pissed off about that.
Can we talk about this now? Because this is the thing that drives me crazy right now, outside of anything else. A whole lot of hoopla with Claypool, but absolutely no noise. Virtual silence on the Donta Foreman front. Absolutely no words. Nobody's saying nothing. I scoured Twitter, nothing. Strangely, his Twitter still got a whole bunch of Panthers stuff on it. It's kind of interesting to see there as well. But ain't no words. Now, for a fan base that at this particular moment who should be or needs to be somewhat behind management, right? Like management needs to be buying favors right now. No words on Donta Foreman ain't buying no favors from me, y'all. I'm just saying it out loud.
Is it possible, kids, that he's injured and they don't want to reveal it to us?
That's not possible.
Okay,
I will say that too.
That's not possible. There's no way he's injured. He'd be
because it would show up. It would show up on that injury report, and then players that practice at the practices, they would know that he's not practicing or he's limping or nothing visual. I would like for the media to ask that question, like why has he been inactive for the entire year?
To me, this is the most important question in Bears fan world right now. What's up with Donta Foreman? And like, why it's an important question?
Because you're getting $3 million. That's why.
No, that's peanuts.
And it can be valuable.
That's peanuts, y'all.
That's peanuts, but that's not peanuts for less than a practice squad player.
Well, like
at this point, he hasn't. Did he see the field week 1? That's the only time he's been on the field, wasn't it?
I think he got a couple, 2 or 3 snaps, man.
He got 2 or 3 snaps.
He didn't.
We ain't heard from him since.
No. He played a fair amount. Like he did okay. He was. Like, I'm not trying to raise him or dock him. What I am trying to say, guys, is doesn't that scream some level of coaching issue?
Wait a minute, kids. Could it be possible now? And you guys can tell me what you think. Is it possible that he violated some kind of rule and the team took care of it on the inside and chose not to make it public? They took care of it in-house. Is that a possibility?
No.
So, like a steroid issue?
That would be a violation of the.
It could be a team violation. It don't have to be an NFL violation.
It doesn't matter. It would violate the CBA.
Yeah, the CBA, and I mean that's not smart because man, we're trying to win games right now, man. We're 0-4 right now, and that's a guy that we think can help us win. We don't know if he can help us win or not because we haven't utilized him. We haven't given them that opportunity to show us what he can do on the field. Ryan Poles went out and signed this guy in free agency, and right now this looks bad on Ryan because this is a guy who we thought was going to be a good player
does it look
for us.
Bad on Ryan?
I mean, because he
moves. Like
I
Ryan's resume, like I hear what you're saying. Like Ryan's resume also, and I didn't want to go down that road. So I'm just being real.
Yeah,
I didn't want to go
right.
down that road, but Ryan's resume right now is definitely like there's a big question mark there
because
right
of the coaching, and that's where I was going with it. You're right. That he's allowing the coaches to make him look bad right now. The coaches are making Ryan look bad because none of his players in free agency or none of his players that were draft picks are really producing well on the field right now, and that looks bad on the GM. It looks like he didn't buy good groceries. When we all know that these players are pretty solid guys, and we've seen some of these free agents have a lot of success on other teams, so we know these guys can play. So I think it's an indictment on the coaching that they're receiving or the positions they're being put in, and it's just not allowing them to show their talents on the field, man, and that's the problem.
So ultimately, is Chase Claypool the bad guy, or is he the scapegoat?
Okay, let's get into that because I had a whole little layout for that, and I got I have a certain way of thinking when it comes to the Chase Claypool situation, and it's a little diverse as far as what people think so far, and people are reacting to what they see in the media. Oh, Chase Claypool said this, and we ought to get rid of him. No, I didn't necessarily feel that way. I always felt like you knew what you were getting in Chase Claypool. You knew you were getting an emotionally let's say immature 23, 24-year-old guy who probably should have been had a little bit of services wrapped around him. Like, I'm a mentor, man. I've been a mentor for a long time, and I dealt with Chase Claypool millions and millions of times, it seems like. And I'm not saying that I would have been the right person to help Chase, get along in his career and help him adjust to the situation here in Chicago. But for the life of me, I can't understand why they knew that and didn't do things to help him along in that manner. There's ways you can deal with. I mean, everybody is going to come at you. A 24-year-old going to come at you, and he's going to come in all kinds of ranges of maturity. You know what I mean? And he's at the lower end of that. And you can't blame youth on a young person. He's just young, and he's not stable as far as his emotions are concerned. Do you still have a hell of a talented player? Hell yeah. And how you go about, dealing with him when he's having his issues about this or that and the third is one thing. Here's another thing. I think, in my opinion, it would be wise for them to hold on to Chase Claypool based on this. And this is my way of thinking, based on what's going to happen with this coaching staff. If this coaching staff can get through this, this is going to be rough. Tonight's going to be a real indicative game on whether or not I think Flus can keep his job, in my opinion. I'm not the GM, but, it's starting to lean towards, you can't keep letting this coach make you look so bad. Like Samo said, maybe you need to do something. And if you're going to do that, is it incumbent upon you to try to keep as much talent as you can on this team, and maybe a different coach with a different way of going about his job and a different direction can help Chase Claypool. That's just my way of thinking, guys. But what do you think?
This entire situation is mismanaged, man, with Chase Claypool, man. From last year all the way rolling into this year, man, they allowed this narrative to sit out here about him. And if there were issues in the building, man, they needed to nip that in the butt early, man. And that's on the coaches because let me step back. Brian should have known exactly the person that he was bringing into the building. He knew that, like you said, this is an emotional guy. He's extremely passionate about the game, and sometimes that passion can be misconstrued. And it's not for everybody to understand, exactly what he's trying to convey all the time. But did it rub some people the wrong way in the building? It definitely seems that way, but they still are mismanaging this situation, I think, because right now he has no value. He has no trade value. We just spent the second round pick on the guy. That's why you have to play him. That's exactly why you have to play him. That's why this situation is being mismanaged by and that's management. That's on Ryan. That's on Ryan Poles, guys. Now he should have went to these coaches and say, hey, you guys have to figure out a way to get the best out of him until we get him out of the building. Get him some plays so that I can get him out of here. Don't sit. We're not going to sit a guy and allow him to just devalue. We devalue this asset right now by sitting him and then causing all this hoopla about him. Like now he's worthless. No one's going to give us anything for him. I don't see how you bring him back onto the team. It just shows poor leadership from the top if we allow him to now come back onto the team. If we said that he was such a nuisance to the team that we had to keep him away from the team. Like he didn't even show up in the building this week. So now we just blew it, man. We blew it. We blew it with Chase Claypool. I think he's a hell of a talent. I think that whatever other team he goes to, I hope that they find a way to utilize his talents and he's able to have some success.
He's gonna tear our ass up, Sam. He's gonna tear our ass up. Excuse me.
Yeah, we mismanaged that situation. You're right, man. You're right. We mismanaged that entire situation with him, though.
I don't know. Like, I'm not going to really delve too deep. You know what? I'm not going to delve too deep into Chase himself and what he did. I am going to say just a couple of quick things. The first one is, realistically, he didn't do anything worse than Justin did, and that's why Justin's sticking up for him a little bit. Now, did he play like a jerk earlier on in the season? Yes, he did. And I think he was warned. And I think running your mouth after you're warned is where things get sketchy, right? Like that's in that respect, I don't blame the coaching staff. Where I do blame the coaching staff, though, is that somewhere behind the scenes, Chase is probably not the only guy. And that's where things start to get weird for me. When you stop and you look and you see Dantas just missing in action for weeks on end, no words. What's up with that? And that's why I wanted to touch on the Donta Foreman thing. It makes the coaching staff look much more inept at handling the internal situations within their building than other organizations, than like other professional sporting organizations. Hey, Donta Foreman has an issue. He's being suspended. We're putting him on IR. We're putting him on PUP. We're doing some. Donta needs a couple of weeks for personal issue. Some kind of, you step in front of the situation if it's just a commonsensical situation. I don't think it is. I think it's much more personalities, and I think they probably lost the locker room a lot earlier than we really knew about. That's just me. But my hopes are that nothing I'm saying here today is true. I hope that they come out here today and they think about Dick Butkus and they kick some booty today. That's my 2 cents.
Hey, guys, I know everybody's got a whole lot of thoughts on this subject, but I got to keep this thing moving so we can get to at least a few more subjects. There was a quoting by, I think, Peter King, who is, I'll remind you guys, who was also the guy that Ryan Poles gave the pre-draft trade information to kind of leak out to the league to let them know, what they were expecting for in return with the draft compensation for that pick. And that happened. That played out right the way he wanted it to. So I believe, and this is just me and my observation, I believe that the quote that Peter King made, and I'm paraphrasing now when I say this, that Matt Eberflus should be on the lookout if he doesn't win this game. He's going to get looked at as somebody who needs to be replaced. And I believe, in my mind, if Poles put that out there and gave it to Peter King, it's a smart play, because what it's going to serve is motivation. It worked for Tevin. That's the same thing he did with Tevin. Tevin ended up not going anywhere and playing his butt off, and before he got hurt, ended up being pretty much almost a Pro Bowl player. And so it worked out well doing that with him. It worked out well doing it with the draft compensation. And if it's true that he leaked it to Peter King, I think it's a smart move. What do you guys think?
Man, I
Brian,
don't know.
Let's start with Brian. Brian, what do you think, man?
Yeah.
Man, never firing a coach during the season, but then there's got to be a first for something.
Yep.
I would hate to see it, but at the same time, before any player, coaches, whatever, I'm a Bears fan, and this isn't looking good. I mean, not just the play on the field, just for the organization as a whole. This is embarrassment.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And this is what I'm
More
saying. It goes back to Ryan, and that's where things get dicey, right? Like what's happening right now, guys, really is Flus and the gang are putting the spotlight on Ryan Poles, and he doesn't want the spotlight. He wants to be able to hide behind that door like Ryan Pacey used to hide behind.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You buy the groceries, put the groceries in the fridge, and let somebody cook them. And Arturo Arnold, the quote of the day. Let me just see if I can find it real quick.
I seen that.
You seen it? I think
Yeah.
Poles got good groceries. I think the coaching staff can't cook. Arturo, big ups to you for that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm with him.
I think you might be bang on right with that. And right now we're looking at again one Dante's sitting there doing nothing. Chase is now about to sit there doing nothing. And you have to ask yourself, if you're Ryan Poles and you're making these calls and getting nowhere trying to trade Chase Claypool, is that the move I make here? Do I get rid of the talent? Or do I get rid of the guy who can't develop the talent?
Pose it. I mean, if we're being fair though, fellas, this is just being fair. Let's be fair to Eberflus, man. And I'm not going to sit here and be an Eberflus defender. I'm not going to. What I'm going to say is all fair, and you guys can judge me for it. But just like we have a young team, a really young team, we also have a really
young coach,
young, inexperienced coach. I mean, I ain't talking about an age. I'm talking about an experience on both sides of the ball. Both the coordinators are young and inexperienced at it. And so, in fairness, with 30 new pieces, some odd new pieces, does it take time to patch all that together, get it glued so it's cohesive together? Yes, it does. And does he need a little bit of time? I think he's had some time. I think, to me, where Eberflus falls short of glory, to me, is the fact that he can't morph. He won't morph that defense into what it needs to be versus what it wants to be. You only play with the talent that you have, not the talent that you wish you had. And so to me, if he falls short at his job, it's because he can't morph and change with the NFL today versus what you want it to be. You have some pieces there that you can do some hyped up schemes and really get after an offense if you really wanted to, but you have to get out of your own way in order to do that. Do I see it coming? I haven't seen any signs of it thus far. I've seen little glimmers of it, but right now, man, I don't know if he can do enough of that to save his job, but he could surprise me, and that's why I'm being fair about it.
He's historically bad, man, and that's the problem. You've been historically bad, terrible on defense, and that's supposed to be your calling card. Our entire team is about to be 15 games if it's today. If we lose today, that's 15 straight losses. That's historically bad. The amount of points that we're giving up, historically bad. And the problem is he's not pivoting from what he's doing, and that we can't stay on board with that. Like, if you're not willing to change, then we have to make the change for you. We'll let you step aside. You can go somewhere else and figure out where you can run your scheme, because what you're doing right now is not helping us. It's hurting us. We have good players on our team, like you said, Nomad. They're just not being put in a position to succeed. We have to adapt to what these players can do as opposed to what we want them to do, and that's his problem. If they go away from him, look, I'm fine with it. If they keep him, I'm fine with it too, because either way, I'm a rock with the Bears. But man, I'm just tired of seeing the same exact thing and expecting something different.
Well, if they move on from him, they've got to appoint somebody that's already there. And if you move on from him,
that's why.
I was thinking John Hope.
I really like Hightower. Do you listen to Hightower in those press conferences?
Yeah.
He knows his stuff, man.
Between
He's
those two,
oriented. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, between those two, I think Hope's a proven coach too. But between those two, but how do you get rid of Eberflus and keep Getsy?
You can't. I don't think you can either.
And so then who do you promote?
And that's the biggest problem right there. The
Right,
offense is
right.
It's not the biggest problem, guys. If we're having this conversation, guys, and they're moving down that path, it doesn't make any difference who.
You're almost right, kids.
You know what I mean? Like, they would just promote whoever's there and give you a shot. Oh, you're bad. Like, you're getting flushed out anyways. So, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make much difference. I think it'll likely be Getsy, because he's the most. Well, geez, let me take that back. I don't have any clue who it's going to be. There's no real experience.
No clue.
Right?
No experience on this roster.
No experience.
But when you talk about the three and who's most responsible.
Like, my answer to this is probably actually Andrew Janoko, just because he's been around for as long as he's been around the organization. Outside of that, there's no experience. There's no tenure here. Now, I wanted to go back to some of the stuff that Samo was saying, and I hate, now I can't say I hate it. Now I'm sort of back where Nomad was, and I have to give a little excuse for the flus, And the reality is, yes, groceries were purchased, but at some point last year, Ryan Poles took the steak away and he took the lobster away. Remember, the lobster and the steak got taken out of the kitchen, and he was forced to cook with like whatever leftovers was in the fridge. This is a great analogy.
The problem is we went vegan.
What's that?
We went vegan, yeah. We starving right now.
He might as well be. He's cooking vegan. There's no meat in there. He took everything away, and you're trying to make something, something out of whatever's in the fridge. So I am gonna give Matt Eberflus, like, the part of the issue here is we keep stacking on last year. Oh, it's 13, it's 15 wins, whatever it is. Last year's a wash, and I have to just sort of give him that and say last year's a wash. This year, bro, you don't really have any answers or excuses for this season. You have
there should have been improvement.
There should have been some level of improvement, some level in some capacity.
Some player. We haven't seen a player improve. The only position we've seen improvement from is the secondary, which are the corners. And Chris, that's why I don't want John Hope to leave. That's why I'm afraid of moving John Hope into a higher position, because I think that the DBs are going to suffer. I think he's our best coach right now. Him and our offensive line coaches, those are the only two coaches I have confidence in on this entire team right now.
Those are the two units that are playing the best.
Exactly, man.
But I think
it's terrible.
I go back to, I keep hearing people talk about, well, Poles has got to go too. I think that's ridiculous, because you can judge a coaching staff much quicker than you can judge the performance of a GM.
Yeah.
And they always talk about how drafts, you don't see what you got in a draft until the third season. Well, how do you get rid of Poles? I haven't lost any confidence in him. I still think the Eberflus hire was a prearranged marriage. The evidence is there.
Well,
yeah,
it's pretty clear.
It is.
He didn't even interview anybody else. Like, that's pretty clear. It's pretty clear.
So, and no matter what he said, even though Eberflus was on his list, you know what? Bieniemy, did they even interview Bieniemy?
No,
they didn't. Sure. They didn't. But that could be the organization telling him that we don't want Bieniemy, and they interviewed coaches before they even brought him in, and he
I know they did it backwards.
The guys that they had already seen, so
it was the same thing with Pace and John Fox.
We picked the coach who's going to represent us on a weekly basis and we'll pick him. We'll get him out of the way. Now we'll get you in the building and you can do the player picks. Perfect.
And I have heard people say, well, he's responsible for the coachings. No, he's not. It's in Eberflus's contract. He picks his coaches, not the GM.
So,
that's pretty standard across the board.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I've heard respected commentators and folks with other podcasts say that they want to hold Poles responsible for Getsy's hire, and that's not realistic.
So, guys,
but you think about it. When he got interviewed, he knew who he was going to hire. When you're in your interview, as a head coach, you're gonna tell your GM like, this is who I'm looking at OC, this is who I'm looking at DC, and why are you looking at these guys? And if I don't get Getsy, I'm gonna go for this guy, but I want that offense. But he should have. I think Poe should have, been a little heavier in the influence on who he was going to be selecting, and knowing that we had a young quarterback that needed to be developed. So he should have made sure that there was someone who had quarterback development experience, I would think. And I think that's the main thing that we're missing. If we didn't get it from our OC, we should have gotten it from our QB coach, and we didn't get it from either. So, and I think that is our pose.
So for the sake of saving time, because we're gonna have to get these guys out of here because the game is about to kick off here in a second. My keys to the game, and we're gonna get out of here. I think you got to run the ball because you got an aggressive front, and how you beat an aggressive front is you run right at them. You got to run a bunch of sweeps, and even the screens will actually work against a team like this. That's how you combat them. But that's my last take because the ball just got kicked off, fellas. Hey, show your solidarity and hit the like button, share, subscribe, hit your notification bell. But we got to get up out of here, you guys. So before we go, I got to leave you with this. Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.
Bear down, baby.
Bear down.
Bear